My name is Claire Alloway, and I am a part of the marketing team here at Jobvite. I'm just going to be moderating the questions for the Q&A portion of the webinar, but just wanted to welcome you to today's presentation, Questions to Ask About Your Social Strategy. We're very lucky to have Tony Restel from Social Hire presenting his profession, his expertise. So I'm going to move it on from there. I think, Tony, you have an introduction slide to give people a little more context to what we're going to see.
Thanks ever so much, Claire. And yeah, welcome everyone to this afternoon's call, or this morning's call for those of you dialing in from the States. Really excited to be talking to you today about how you go about building a successful social media strategy for a recruitment business or for an in-house recruitment team. And we're going to be looking through the kind of steps you need to take to get results from social media and to get really quantifiable results, so that at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, you can look back and you can talk to the rest of the business about these are the candidates that we've had and we've placed or we've hired through social media, or these are the client wins or the new client inquiries that we've had as a result of our social media strategy. So that's what we're going to be focused on today. We're going to run for 40 to 45 minutes, and then we're going to open things up to questions. So some of you have tried using that question box already. If you've got any questions as we're going along, please do enter them in there, and Claire's going to be looking out for those and putting those to me at the end of the session. So just in terms of myself, to give you a little bit of context, who I am, why I'm on this call presenting to you today. I guess the essentials are I've been in online recruitment since 2000. So I kicked off a career in management consulting. Then I launched a job board focused on the management consultancy sector. And I sold that to Jobsite here in the UK. So that'd be equivalent of a Monster or someone like that in the States. Jobsite and the Daily Mail, one of the big newspaper groups here. And then I stayed on with them as an executive at Jobsite through until just a few years ago, and then launched Social Hire in 2012. And what we do as a business, we're a social media agency that recruitment teams, recruitment businesses can outsource their social media presence to. So we, day in, day out, are doing the kinds of things that I'm going to be presenting to you today. But what that means in terms of today's content is all the ideas I'm giving you, all the things that I'm saying work or don't work, these are based on us managing hundreds and hundreds of social media accounts for recruitment businesses across the English-speaking world. So I hope we're going to get some really good insights for you today, and really looking forward to sharing things you can go put into practice in your business right away. So let's start just by painting a picture of what kind of impact could this have on your business in terms of how visible you are with the clients that you want to win or with the candidate audience that your business wants to reach. And I love referring back to this chart. This is a tool called Topsy, which unfortunately was closed down in the last year. Apple bought it and decided they no longer had a need for it. At the time we were building the business, Topsy was a fantastic tool for benchmarking your own business against other businesses out there in your industry to see, how much is your content being shared on social media, what kind of interactions are you generating, what kind of activity is your social media generating, and this should really open your eyes to the potential for social media to have your business be perhaps far more visible and known in your market than maybe the size of your business would warrant. What I'm showing here is, we said as a business, if we want recruiters to know about us and to entrust us with their social media, we need to be one of the most visible brands in the recruitment market out there. And so we set ourselves a goal of, we want our content to be being shared as much as LinkedIn's own recruitment blog, as much as ERE. And for those of you on the call from the UK, some of the biggest publications in the recruitment world in terms of online content. And what you can see here, this particular chart showing you how many times each day people were sharing content from our website, and that's in the orange line, paired with PRE and paired with LinkedIn Talent. And what you can really see here is how a small business can punch way above its weight on social media. If you're doing the right things, if you know how to get noticed, if you know how to win fans and start getting them sharing your content, you can really get visibility for your business that's totally out of proportion, perhaps with the size of your recruitment team or the size of yourself as an employer. So hopefully that's got you all really excited about the potential here. And what we want to do with that presence is then build a funnel around it that's going to turn that audience into end results, end outcomes that actually benefit your business. So the types of things that companies come to us and say, that this is what we want to achieve from social media. Some of them are looking to achieve a regular stream of new client inquiries from potential prospects within their industry. Others are looking to really ramp up the amount of interactions they have with their existing client base, so that they're always front of mind with their existing clients. Other businesses are much more candidate focused. They're having no problem winning work, but they are having a problem with the fact that candidates are in such short supply in their industry. And so for those businesses, they're coming to us saying, okay, how can we turn social media into a flow of candidates to our business, both active candidates, really looking to move in the next weeks, but also passive candidates, so that we become more and more known by people in our industry who, the next time they're thinking of a career change, will think of us, will look at our website, will see what opportunities we're looking to fill, because we've got on their radar and we've been on their radar and interacted with them over the preceding months and maybe years. Another goal that a lot of businesses have is to really make their brand be one of the most prominent in their market, whether that's as an employer brand or whether that's as a recruitment business looking to be the best known in that particular market. But you might want to be the brand that is most visible at key industry events, or that is invited to guest post and publish on as many different publications in your industry as possible. These are the kinds of things that people are achieving with their social media presence. Obviously, for the last couple of decades, having great search engine results has always been a key consideration. How highly are we going to appear in Google? Well, certainly social media and the amount that your website is shared on social media and the network that your company's built on social media, these have an effect in terms of your Google SEO rankings. So there are also businesses investing in social media for that reason alone. And then last but not least, generating more word-of-mouth referrals, better conversion rates. So as candidates go through the process of finding out about your business, seeing jobs, they're more likely to apply. And then as they go through the interview process, they're more likely to stay in the process, more likely to accept an offer at the end of the process. If yours is a business that they really know because they've interacted with you so much on social media in the months leading up to that interview process. So these are the kinds of outcomes you might be looking for. I'm going to talk much more specifically about how you get these in just a little bit. But what should really excite you about that chart I was showing you a moment ago with Social Hire? We achieved that at a point in our business where we were only able to devote between half and one full-time person to building that presence. So we were able to get to the point that we had these huge social media followings of highly relevant people in the recruitment industry who were sharing our content massively and getting us seen, as much as some of the biggest brands out there. We did all of that having only half to one full-time person working on this. And actually, you're in a much stronger position than us, because we achieved that starting with nothing. So we were a brand new business. We had no existing clients, no existing readers, no existing website traffic we could leverage, no alumni, and very minimal network. Whereas most of you on the call, you work for companies that already get a decent amount of website traffic. You already have clients. You already have big candidate databases. So the types of assets you have available to springboard the success of your social media, far, far greater than we had. I would say if you're talking to the business about investing in social media and you're trying to give an indication of the timescales for getting results, I would say it's certainly realistic that you see some pretty compelling results for your business within 6 months of properly investing in your social media presence. And the full ramp up to be, the brand, the business that is most prominent in your particular market is probably going to take 12 to 24 months. Obviously, that depends which country you're in, which industry you're in, how big a lead your competitors have already built up in doing this. But that's the kind of timescale for you to become, one of the best, if not the best known brand in your particular niche space. And I would say, in all the interactions we've had with businesses, no real reason that a recruitment team or a recruitment business, recruitment technology company couldn't achieve that kind of dominance in their niche. So this is something that a lot of you on the call could take away and you could implement in your own business, your own market, without any impediment. So let's talk about how we go about doing that. And I'm going to start off by talking about building blocks for growing yourself a really strong and powerful and results-oriented social media presence. And I talk about a recipe for success, and this really applies across whichever social platforms you're thinking of building a presence on. There's 4 key stages that you have to get right, and I'll walk you through these briefly now, and then we'll spend the next portion of the presentation looking at each of these in more depth so that you really go away understanding what it is that you need to do as a business or as a recruitment team. The first thing that's really key is to properly define the audience that you want your business to reach on social media and what it is that you want that audience to do over the coming months that's going to allow you to demonstrate real business value from you having this social media presence. And we'll talk about exactly what we mean by that in just a moment, but that's the first key step. The second key step, once you define the audience that you're going after and what it is you want them to do, is to think about how can we make our social media profiles be really compelling for that audience. What would make them want to follow our social media profiles? What would make them want to share the updates we're putting out there in front of a much bigger audience? And what would make them really stick by us and regularly click on us, regularly comment, regularly interact with us, and get to know our business and become an advocate for us? And I'm going to talk about becoming a magnet in your sector. This is the polar opposite, by the way, of what most recruitment businesses do. So if you think of recruitment businesses, they will very often make their social media presence be 100% about pushing out their latest vacancies, their latest job listings, and hoping that some of the right candidates will see them, will click on those listings, and will apply to them. And if that's the direction you go with your social media and you don't do anything else, then you're really doomed to failure, because that doesn't work as a strategy. So we're going to talk about what does work. That second step, one of the key things we're looking to do is have a high conversion rate. And what do I mean by that? Let's say that you as a business are trying to attract candidates on social media. If we can get 100 of your ideal candidates to look at one of your social media profiles, so they go to your LinkedIn company page or they go to your Twitter account, how many of them are going to be won over by what they see there and think, oh, I must click the button to follow this company and get updates from now on? If you have a really, really low conversion rate there, the rest of your social media presence is doomed to failure, because you have to get thousands of people to look at one of your profiles to even have a few dozen people following you and getting your updates on an ongoing basis. Whereas if you do a really good job of this, you can have a conversion rate somewhere 20 to 40% of everyone who looks at your profiles immediately clicks the button to get your updates on an ongoing basis. And this isn't that dissimilar to building an email newsletter, 10, 15 years ago. Is it a newsletter that people are really eager to sign up to? And once they sign up to it, do they really look out for the updates that come through in that email newsletter? Because they're always valuable, they're always insightful, they're always worth sharing with other people in the office. And we're really talking about with your social media, you doing the modern day equivalent of that, which is to make your profiles be valuable to people in your sector. Okay, now that ties into the third step, which is once we've got a high converting social media presence, clearly we then want to get as many of the right people as possible to actually see one of our profiles in the first place. Because it's all well and good that our profile can succeed in signing people up to get our updates, but what's going to get them to see us in the first place? And you've got to be proactively doing things to get your account seen by the exact candidate audience or the exact client audience that your business wants to be interacting with. So that's absolutely key. And then the fourth and final step, you've got to make time to engage with your followers, with your network, or to prompt them to take the final course of action that you actually want to take. So if your goal as a business was to generate new client leads, you need to engage with people on social media, have a conversation with them, and put in front of them that they might like to sign up to join your network breakfast, or they might like to put in for a consultation with you. I'll go through with you, exactly what that is, but you have to have that final step. If you build a great social media presence, but then you never actually take that final step, you basically end up reaching a lot of people, having a brand that's seen by a lot of people, but very few of those people actually turning into business leads or turning into candidates who've applied to your business. So we're going to turn our attentions now to each of these in turn and how you go about doing those. But before we do that, I just want to talk about your social media presence as a sales funnel of sorts. So think about your business. Who is it that you want to reach? And what is it that you want people to have done a few months from now that would have turned them into a real asset, a real tangible business result for your company? And if you think about things in that way, there is a total target audience that you as a business would like to reach. Let's imagine that you are a recruitment business who recruits digital marketing executives in the New York area. Well, there's a total audience of candidates out there that you would like to reach on social media, which is everyone who fits that kind of description within commutable distance of the types of positions you recruit for in New York. As a business, we want to encourage as many of those people as possible to follow our accounts, because that's what means that they start regularly getting updates from our business. So we're going to experiment with the look of our social media profiles, the bio message that we have on our social media profiles that convinces them yours is an account that's worth following. We can experiment with what type of content we share, make those people more likely to choose to follow us when they come to one of our profile pages. And that's going to allow us to build up a bigger and bigger portion of our total audience that actually now are following our business and getting our updates regularly. Then we're going to want to engage as many of that audience as possible, because all the time they're just receiving your updates, they're not that much more likely to apply to your business or to request a meeting with your business than anyone else. So what we really want is to have the opportunity to interact with people or to put targeted advertising messages in front of them. So now if I just explain what I mean by that, let's imagine you are that recruitment business, placing candidates in digital marketing roles in New York. And let's say that your business has just shared a post on the 7 biggest challenges that digital media executives are facing in 2016. there'll be some of your followers who choose to reshare that and retweet that with their audience. There'll be others who comment on that post or like it or share it into other groups that they're a member of. Every single one of those actions is an excuse for you to start a conversation with that person. So as a business, you would look through every person who's doing any of those things, and each time you see someone who is a really good prospect for your business, or is someone who you think would help you reach lots more of your target audience, you interact with them. You encourage them to do more of the same, you start a conversation, and then at a certain point in the conversation, you drop in the suggestion that they might like to sign up for your next careers event, or that they might like to have a quick call with one of your recruitment team. And this is how we convert your social media presence into actual tangible results, where we can now say, okay, the following are all candidates who originated from our activities on social media. Or another variant of that would be running targeting advertising. So let's say with our social media presence, we've managed to drive people to look at a page where they can sign up for a careers event we're hosting. And through a lot of marketing we've been doing, we've got lots more people visiting that page. Well, then on social media, what we can do with specialist retargeting is say, okay, anyone that's visited that careers event page that hasn't signed up to attend the careers event, the next time they're on Facebook, we want to put an advert in front of them that reminds them about our careers event and encourages them to sign up. And the same thing on Twitter, and the same thing on Instagram, and maybe LinkedIn and other places as well. This kind of retargeting is very commonly used in consumer sales. So if you've ever gone to book a holiday or buy a new TV, anything like that, you've probably noticed that in the days afterwards, when you're on social media, when you're browsing around other websites, you keep seeing adverts that encourage you to go back and complete the purchase that you didn't finish, or to carry on searching for holiday options with that particular company. And this is the recruiting equivalent of that. So think about your social media presence in terms of a funnel like this, and then every single step of that funnel, you're going to test, learn, test. So we're going to test what imagery on our profiles, what bio message, what type of content is going to generate followers for us as fast as possible. What activities on social media are going to get us noticed by more of the right people as quickly as possible. What types of content shares generate the most interactions, and so open the door for us to have conversations with potential clients or with candidates that we'd like to place or hire. And that's how we turn everything into something that's then a scalable process for your business. So let's talk about the 4 steps that I was mentioning and think about each of those in a bit more detail so you have a better understanding of what's involved here. So firstly, we want to carefully define the audience you're going after and what it is that you want those people to do. And I love the saying that if you don't know where you're going, any path will take you there. Social media can be such a huge drain on your time. If you embark on social media without knowing exactly who you want to reach and exactly what you want those people to be doing in the future, you end up getting pulled in all sorts of directions. You'll be invited to take part in a tweet chat. You'll be asked if you'd like to contribute some quotes to an article that's being pulled together. You'll be asked if you'd like to co-present on a webinar or take part in a Q&A session or join a live blab or all sorts of different things. And if you don't have really precisely defined who you're going after and what you want those people to do, you end up saying yes to a whole load of things that actually don't get you any closer to what your business objective should really be. So here's what I'd encourage you to think about. As a business on social media, are you trying to woo candidates or are you trying to win over clients? What do those people look like? What's their level of seniority? What sector and functional specialisms do they have? If you're going after candidates, does your business most need to interact with active candidates, or are you more interested in passive candidates? And we've got a whole spread of these. So, you've got businesses out there who have high turnover of staff, who every week need to bring in people who can start work more or less immediately. And so their focus is really on being seen and visible and winning over people who are looking for work right now. Then you've got other businesses, maybe more at the search end of the market, or working in professional spaces, who just want to be well known by that candidate audience, so that the next time they're thinking of a career move, one of the most likely places they're going to turn is to your business. And so they're much more focused on passive candidates than necessarily people that they can place this very next week. So think about that in terms of your business. And then geographical location. If you're thinking about winning clients with social media, where would you and wouldn't you be excited about winning client work? And let's define the catchment area of clients that you really want to interact with. Similarly with candidates, does your business, is it excited about bringing in candidates from overseas and helping them with visa issues and all that sort of thing? Or do you have a really close target audience of candidates and you're only interested in people in the New York area or in the Greater London area? Get really focused on what your ideal candidate or your ideal client looks like, and then build everything around that. And are you interested in maximizing your interactions with past candidates and clients, or with new candidates and clients? And again, the answer to this will be different for each business and each person on this call. Because if you're in a startup recruitment business, your challenges are very, very different to a recruitment business that's, been established for years and is one of the market leaders. That latter company is really going to want to cement their position with their candidate database, with the range of clients that they serve, and make sure that those candidates and clients see them everywhere, so that they don't have any reason to ever think about turning to help from one of their competitors. Whereas as a small business, just trying to break into a market, your concerns are going to be very different. You're going to be focused on, how do I get noticed by people who've never heard of our business? And that's a very different challenge to staying in touch with people who do know your business. So get all of those things really clear in your mind. And then in terms of what you want those people to do, what is the outcome that you want for your business? Maybe you want visitors to your website. We have clients who want to reduce their spend on job boards. They want to reduce their reliance on Google pay-per-click. They don't want to be as dependent on staying on the first page of Google search results. If you can start to get a significant flow of candidate or client traffic from social media, clearly that is one potential big win from social media. Maybe you want leads you can follow up. If you're a recruitment technology company, you want requests from people that demo of your offering. If you're a recruitment agency, you would love to have inbound inquiries from potential new clients who'd love to have a meeting with you, or an initial phone consultation, or come along to one of your next networking events. Maybe your goal for social media is to drive applications to your current open vacancies. Or maybe it's to get sign-ups to your CV or resume database, or to a newsletter you run, or a mobile app that you offer. All these are valid reasons for being on social media. Just be clear from the outset which of these you're going after, and don't spread yourself too thin. It's much better to have just one or two objectives and do a really good job of that than try and cover every possible base and end up not doing a particularly good job of any of them. So that's the first step. The second step, once we've defined that audience and what we want people to do, is we want to then build social media profiles that people in that demographic are going to find extremely valuable, insightful, maybe even entertaining. And we achieve this by becoming a micro-publisher in that particular niche. So we're trying to give people a compelling reason to follow you, to like you when they first land on your page, or if you send a connection request or you follow them, a compelling reason for them to follow you back or accept that connection request. And really, you're trying to become a must-read resource within your particular industry. So something that people can't believe they didn't know about before. As they get updates through from your accounts, they find them really, really valuable, and they start sharing them with other people in the industry. They start commenting on them. They really look out for your next updates because they're always really valuable. So you want to become that account that people pay the most attention to, most likely to click on, retweet, reshare. And for those of you, on the call old enough to, have been in recruitment 10, 15 years ago, when we all got, the most important updates about our industry came through email newsletters. Back in those days, in most industries, there were a handful, 2, 3, 4 newsletters out there that everyone felt you really had to read and devour what it was they were sharing each week or each fortnight, because it was always really informative for people in that sector. And the rest of the newsletters out there, they were too salesy, they were too promotional, people signed up to them, and then they quickly put them in their spam folder or unsubscribed. And with your social media presence, you're really trying to replicate what those valuable email newsletters were achieving 10, 15 years ago. And what you'll find, if you're consistently sharing things that people really appreciate getting in their social media feeds, you build up a ton of goodwill. So when you do then put out messages saying, we've got an urgent hiring requirement, we need to find, several digital marketing executives with this kind of background within commutable distance to this place, does anyone out there know anyone? You'll find if you've helped people and they found you valuable in the preceding weeks and months, they will be very, very open to resharing that with their network and to trying to help you wherever they can. So that's really what you need to be focused on, rather than just sharing your jobs, actually becoming a valuable resource within your industry. And people often ask me, how much content do we actually need to have a great presence on social media? Well, I would say, if you're going after one geography, so you are trying to attract candidates in the New York area, or you are trying to reach clients in the Greater London area, basically you're in one time zone or pretty close to one time zone. 6 to 8 updates per day on Twitter is the kind of volume of posting you're looking for, and that would include the weekends. And 2 to 3 updates per day on places like LinkedIn, Facebook, Google+. This is what you need to have done a good job of saturating your market and being seen by everyone you want to be seen by. And often when I talk to businesses that think they've been investing in social media and you start examining what they've been doing and what they haven't been doing, one of the obvious shortcomings is, they're only tweeting once every 2 days and they think that that means they have a Twitter presence. Well, if the average tweet, is only seen for 10 to 15 minutes, people either see it within a few minutes of you tweeting it, or they'll never see it at all. If you're only tweeting once every couple of days, you basically don't have a Twitter presence. Most of the people you would want to see your business or your employer brand on Twitter are simply not going to see it. So add this all up, this is quite a lot of work. And a big reason that recruitment teams and recruitment businesses fail with social media is they just totally underestimate the amount of time that needs to go into actually doing a proper job of this. And if you remember, I talked about social hire and the fact that we had between half and a full-time person working on this in the early years of our business to build up that presence. So this isn't something that you can ask the admin person in your office, to try and do a bit of each week when they have a spare moment. It's not something that you can ask your individual recruitment consultants, to try and do a bit of each week. It simply isn't enough. It isn't consistent enough, and it isn't the quantity of updates that are needed to be successful. And the last tip I'd give there, and this is particularly if you're in a recruitment business, but also good for employers as well, try and get more and more of your staff sharing this type of content with their own networks as well, because you find that sparks a lot of conversations and interactions with people who are already in the network of the company, who you wouldn't have reached if you'd only put this content out on the company's profiles. So in terms of achieving this, obviously we do all of this for our clients, so that there's a lot of work goes on behind the scenes here. But if you're trying to think yourselves of, how could you do a better job of this? Could you start making some progress in this area? I'd say there's two tools you could look at that would allow you, in all likelihood, to significantly improve on what you've been doing to date. The first of those would be a tool called Buffer. That's buffer.com. And you'll see when you go there, I think there's still a free option to use the tool, and then various paid options depending on the number of accounts you want to connect and the functionality that you want. What Buffer essentially does is allows you to queue up content that you want to be shared on your social media accounts throughout the week. And find things that you want to share to be valuable in your particular industry, you click the Buffer button, they get added to this queue, and then over the coming days and weeks that content is shared. So even while I'm on this call with you today, there could be content going out in a LinkedIn group that I'm a member of. There could be content going out on my Twitter account, on the social hire company pages, even though I and my team are all busy presenting on events like this or working on our client accounts. This keeps you active throughout the working week at the optimal times of day, even if that happens to be while you're sleeping. Okay, so a really great tool that you can use for that purpose. And then what I would pair that with is an account with Feedly, Feedly.com. And Feedly is basically your own personal news digest. So when you go onto Feedly, you'll see that you create an account, and again, there's free accounts there, and then you can add content to Feedly. So what you do as a business is you brainstorm, okay, what type of content is going to be really interesting for the types of people that we want to attract as a business, and then you add all of those websites and blogs and sources into Feedly and say, I want to know whenever any of these specialist publications publish something new. And so each time you log into Feedly, you're presented with a whole selection of content that comes from sites that you already know publish valuable content in your industry. And this, if you compare this with, at the start of the week, going to Google and trying to find 30 pieces of content that you could share over the coming week, that is extremely time consuming, trying to find enough posts that are valuable and worth sharing, versus this, where you can log in and immediately be presented with all the new content that any of those valuable sources have published. Okay, so those are the two resources or the two tools that I would use. Once you've got those profiles that are valuable, you then need to get yourself proactively in front of more and more of the audience. So we're looking here for people who are active, interested, and engaged. And this brings me on to another major reason that recruitment businesses and recruitment teams fail on social media. Apart from Facebook, on most social media sites, the majority of users are not active. If we look at LinkedIn, the average user there is only on the site once or twice a month. If you look at Twitter, over 1 billion accounts on Twitter now, but only around a quarter of them are actually active users of the site. So if we want to try and connect with people and have conversations with people, it's no good researching all the candidates in your market who are on Twitter or all the potential clients who are on Twitter and then putting effort into trying to win all of those over and build relationships with all of them. Because the majority of those users created an account, a year ago and haven't been on Twitter in the last 6 months. So you're focusing your effort on people who are never going to see your message and therefore never going to generate any business value for you. It's a bit like, you know, in the old days of email newsletters, it's great to have a huge email list, but if 99% of your emails are ending up in people's spam folders, then your huge email list is actually almost worthless because hardly anyone is ever seeing your messages. And so this is a key thing on social media, is to focus your efforts on the people in your industry who are genuinely actively using that particular social site. And you've got to orient your activities around that. Linked to that, we want to build up an audience of people who are interested in the same things as us. So, you know, we talked about the example of a recruitment business placing digital marketing, digital media executives in New York. Well, if we as a business are going to share content that's helpful for that type of person, then the only people we're interested in trying to engage with on that social site are people who also share and interact with that type of content. So if I've joined Twitter, for example, and I'm a digital marketing executive, but I've only joined Twitter to get updates from the sports teams that I follow, and I don't actually use Twitter to stay on top of what's happening in digital marketing, then that would be someone, it would be a waste of our time trying to interact with them on Twitter, because that isn't where they're actively involved in talking about business and showing an interest in the kinds of topics that we're going to be sharing. So you have to focus your effort on people who are using that particular social site for similar purposes to your content sharing strategy. And then thirdly, we want to focus our efforts on people who engage. So ideally, you know, the gold dust on social media is who is active on that site, who also shares the kind of content that we're going to be sharing, who has a big following of the types of people we want to reach, and who regularly interacts with or reshares other people's posts. If we can find those people and build relationships with them, that's when our business goes through the roof on social media, because we start having our updates being reshared by people with a huge reach, and so we start reaching numbers in our industry that are absolutely massive, instead of, you know, the small numbers we reach if we're only reaching our own followers. And just to you know, give you a couple of ideas again here of tools you might want to look at, you can have a look at buzzsumo.com. So I've just got a little screenshot of this here. Lots of things you can do on BuzzSumo, but one of the useful things is to look for influencers in any particular industry. So here I've pulled up people who are influential about recruiting, and you can see lots of names here that lots of you on the call probably recognize: Jim Stroud, Glenn Cathy, Andy Hedworth. And we can look and we can see the size of their followings. We can see from their profile who they are and who therefore is going to want to follow them. We can see how much they retweet other people. So are they someone who's likely to retweet us if we build a relationship with them? And then we can focus our efforts on the people who are going to be most valuable for our business. So that's BuzzSumo. So I'm just getting a message that screen sharing is paused, so I'm just making sure that you can all see. Could a couple of you just confirm through the question box that screen sharing is still happening? You can still see my screen? Perfect. Okay, so just a little technical gremlin then. Okay, so in terms of the final step, we need to make time to actually engage with the people we've been building up as an audience on social media. Okay, so that's absolutely key, and if you don't do this, you end up with a large audience of people who see your brand, who know your business, but who haven't actually taken the final step that you wanted them to take. So the types of things that I would recommend you do are create streams that you're going to monitor on social media that will show you opportunities to interact with people who would be relevant for your business. So who's been sharing content from your company's website? Who's been sharing content to do with the topics that your business recruits for? Who's been using hashtags that are popular in your industry? Who's interacting with some of your competitors? Great way of finding people that you might want to jump in and poach. Who's been mentioning your brand? Who's been sharing the content that you've been putting out there? All of these things, if you can build social media streams to see this happening in real time, give you opportunities every day, even every hour, to be interacting with loads of relevant candidates for your business or potential client leads for your business. And in social hire, we got to the point, I showed you that chart earlier, that getting on for 10,000 people a month were sharing content from social hire just on Twitter. So every day we had opportunities to interact with just tons and tons and tons of people who were potential prospects for our business. And social media opened the door to having those conversations. You might also want to create lists of people whose activity you particularly want to monitor. So maybe you've got a hit list of candidates that you want to poach or approach. Maybe you're targeting people at competitors. Maybe you have a hit list of contacts within client organizations that you'd like to build up relationships with. Well, on lots of the social sites, you can create lists of specific people whose activity you want to monitor so that you can jump on every opportunity to have a conversation with them. And all of this, you're going to link back to your company objectives. So if the goal was to prompt people to book in a call with you or upload their resume to your database or sign up for a careers event, every time you see the opportunity to have a conversation with someone who's relevant to do that, you're going to drop in that suggestion and make that happen. And I'll just give you an idea here. I'm going to share a tool called Cicado with you, and it's going to give you an idea of, this can be taken very, very seriously, and it can be turned into a process that is really scalable and that you can delegate to people in your team or delegate to be done by a company such as mine. Here we're seeing a screenshot of Cicado where we have set up criteria for who would be an ideal prospect for our business. That could be a candidate prospect, it could be a potential client prospect, but you specify, job titles, what keywords are going to be in their bio, what type of things they're going to be talking about on social media, and then every day Cicado will show you a big long hit list of people that it thinks are a perfect match for what your business needs. And you go through and you approve or you decline each of those as being genuine leads for your business. Where you approve them, that then kicks off a series of actions that engage that person. So we're going to like one of their tweets, we're going to follow them. These are going to result in that person getting potentially email notifications or Twitter notifications to have a look at our profile. And then those that follow us back, we're then going to send them a personalized message encouraging them to engage with our business or sign up for our business breakfast or join our webinar or whatever it is that as a business we've decided we want to do. And so that gives you a little snapshot of, if you take this really, really seriously, this is the kind of level of sophistication you can get to with your social media presence and with social selling. And you can A/B test things. So we can test putting a message to people, would they like to join us for a business breakfast? Would they like to sign up for a careers event? Would they like to register their resume? And then we can obviously focus our efforts on whichever of those things are producing the very best results.
Sorry, Tony, I just wanted to interrupt. I think your screen sharing was frozen. So
Okay.
we're still seeing the BuzzSumo screenshot right now.
Okay.
I believe. So if you want to turn off screen sharing and then turn it on.
Yeah,
again.
let me just see if that works or doesn't work. How is that for you now?
Perfect. We're seeing the checklist slide now. And the
Okay.
slide.
Okay, perfect. So, well, this is the screenshot Cicado that I was just talking through. So you can see all the different prospects that have come up here, and the fact that I can approve, decline them, and if I approve them, then they're going to go through that flow that turns them into a prospect for our business or turns them into a candidate that we're encouraging to take a course of action. So this is the kind of level of sophistication that you can go to if you're doing this really seriously on social media. So yeah, the final thing I was going to show you, I've not talked about our business, and I'm not really going to on the call either, but if you go to our homepage and you'll see at socialhire.com a link to have a look at our packages. These are a great checklist of all the things you should be doing on social media. So you'll see here a long list of activities that we undertake for our clients, and if you hover over any of these, you'll see a box opens up describing in more detail what that particular activity is. So if you want to go through and sort of audit what you have been doing on social media and see where have you been falling short, what have you been doing, what haven't you been doing, that would be a great checklist for, for really opening your eyes to whether you've been doing enough or not. Last but not least, some of you on the call will have seen me actively blogging with Jobvite, so there's a lot of my content covering all sorts of topics like this over on their blog, and there's the link there. You're very welcome to go and check those out. If you want more information on how to use Facebook for recruiting, or how to use Twitter for recruiting, or LinkedIn, or anything else, you'll find that kind of content covered there. So I think almost on schedule. We are through to the Q&A section of the presentation. So thank you all ever so much for your time today. I hope that's been really informative for you. And I'd love to open things up now to any questions that there may be. And I'd also add, if any of you want to discuss the types of things we've been talking about today with one of our team and figure out the right strategy for your business, you're very welcome to head on over to our homepage, and you'll find there a button where you can book in for a call with us, and we'd be very, very happy to spend that time with you. But for now, please do use the question box. Send through your questions to Claire and the team, and I will endeavour to tackle as many of those as I can.
Wonderful. So we do have a couple of questions coming in. First, want to tackle a question that we've got from a couple of people, including Sophie, and just tell you that yes, you are going to be getting the slides and the recording emailed to you, so you can review some of the things that Tony shared and get a couple of those slides that we missed because of GoToWebinar's technical difficulties. But yes, those will be emailed to you right away. So getting on to the more substantial questions for Tony. Chris had a question. Is there any way to automate selected content distribution between tools like Feedly and Buffer?
I'm almost reluctant to answer that one, Claire. Yes, there are. There's a tool called IFTTT, which stands for If This Then That, and that allows you to set up rules that are triggered when the criteria for that rule are met. So, for example, if you have tagged a certain piece of content on Feedly, then you can have that automatically added to your Buffer account, so that it will then go out on Buffer at some point over the coming days or weeks. You can go even further than that. I mean, that step involves just, it's quicker for you to select content on Feedly and have that then queued up on Buffer. You can take that even further and say, each time Social Hire publishes something new, please add it to my Buffer account. And then you literally have your social media on autopilot. If you do that with several different sources, for the next 10 years, it will pump out content from you on social media without you having to lift a finger. I would be very, very wary of doing that, because it's only a matter of time until something goes out on your account that your business wouldn't have wanted to be associated with. And you really shouldn't be sharing anything that you haven't read and looked at yourself would be my advice in a professional capacity.
Okay. Yeah, definitely great advice. I know our social media manager would agree with you immediately. Okay, so from Ali, we have a question. Out of those 2 to 3 posts that you suggested posting on LinkedIn, what sort of things are the best to share? Articles, personal post, job descriptions?
I mean, I guess the first thing to say there is it depends what your objectives are for social media. So if you, I don't know, have the goal that you want to generate client leads, then that's going to be very different from having a goal of driving as many candidates to a company's careers pages as possible. So it will vary depending on what your actual objective on social media is. I would say job descriptions are the least effective thing to share in terms of updates. Much more powerful to share calls to action that your company is recruiting. So if I compare and contrast that for you, imagine that everyone on the call is looking for a new recruitment job right now. If you follow any recruitment to recruitment business on social media and they are putting out each of their new jobs on their LinkedIn company page or on their Twitter page, 99% of the jobs you get through from that business or that individual recruiter are going to be irrelevant to you because they're not in the right location, they're not paying the right salary, they don't have the right job title, they're not with the type of company you wanted to join. So they're just spam and noise in your stream, and they generate very low engagement and success rate on social media. Whereas if we all wanted a new recruitment job and we'd all followed a recruitment to recruitment business, and the next update they put out said, we're having an unbelievable month, we've got a huge array of new opportunities for recruiters wanting a change of career direction. Do click here to check out the latest opportunities and apply online, and that takes you through to all your latest openings. Well, that then prompts action from anyone who's a follower of that company who is thinking at all of a change in jobs. So that would be my observation in terms of actual job sharing. Very much depends on your business what else is going to be the best to share. Certainly insights into the business that allow people to get a bit better understanding of your company culture, of what it would be like to work with you, of people's personal experiences of having joined the company, or what it's like to go through your interviewing process. All these kinds of looks under the hood, look under the bonnet of what it's like to work in this company or what it's going to be like to try and get a job with this company. That kind of insight is very valuable to people and tends to do very well. But the real answer is to mix it up and then track the data. So if you're using a tool like Buffer, put out a whole range of different things and then let the data steer you on what you should do next. And if you start to see that a certain type of post is just generating way more interactions, way more shares, way more clicks than anything else, then clearly you're going to be best served by reducing the posts that aren't working and focusing on the ones that really are working.
Perfect. So I think we have time for one more question. So let me see. Let me read through these really quickly. How can we determine which social sites are the best places to reach our target demographics?
Yeah, that's a really good one. Two different things I would suggest. That a very simple way is just to pretend that you're someone in the market that you're targeting, and to actually go onto that site and see, is there a lot of activity and discussion amongst the types of people that you would want to attract. So, for example, people say to me, should I be on Google Plus, for example? Well, if you go onto Google Plus and you see that actually they've got communities or groups that are really vibrant, there's tons of conversation going on there on exactly the topics that would resonate with your target audience, then that would tell me, this is potentially a rich hunting ground for you. But the most sophisticated way of doing this, I would say, is to set yourself up as an advertiser on each of the social sites. And you don't have to spend any money to do this. You just, when you've got your business page on that social site, you go in to the advertising area and you start setting up a draft of an advertising campaign to run on that social site. And at that point, it will ask you to narrow down the demographics that you want to reach with your advert. And obviously, if you start putting in there, geographically where you want to target people, keywords that they're going to have, interests that they're going to have, the types of businesses that they're going to have followed or interacted with, then you can pull up for each social site how many people do they think they could reach for you that fit those demographic criteria. And then you've got really hard data. Does Instagram reach this sort of person or not? Does how many of these people do LinkedIn reach? How many of these people can Twitter reach for me on on a daily basis, a monthly basis? And then you really have the information at your fingertips to decide which of these are worth spending time on and which of them are not. So that would be how I would recommend doing that. And that's that might be a morning's work to get yourself set up across several different social sites and to pretend to be an advertiser on each of those. But if that then shows you that the two sites that are the best for reaching your target audience are A and B, and you then spend all your efforts building up a really good presence on A and B, that'll be one of the best mornings of your time that you'll ever invest in this, because you're then focused on doing things on the platforms where you're actually going to get results, rather than spreading yourself too thin, trying to be on loads of platforms and not doing a great job on any of them. So I hope that helps answer that one, Claire.
Yeah, that was a great social hack. We definitely use that in our advertising, so it makes perfect sense to do it to figure out your audience for social recruiting. Love it. With that, apologies for going 4 minutes over our scheduled time, but I hope that you found Tony's presentation really helpful and informative. And obviously, on the topic of social hire, please feel free to reach out to obviously Tony or Social Hire on Twitter or on his LinkedIn profiles, and then also at Jobvite. We started in social recruiting, and we'd love to share any more tips or tricks or obviously products if you're interested. And check out our blog, and you can see more info and tips from Tony there. But thank you so much to Tony for taking the time this morning. And to everyone else, thank you for joining. The recording and the slides will be emailed to you in a couple of hours. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye.
Terrific. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.